isolated showers throughout much of the Antelope Valley, parts of Kern County as well. And wherever you see these orange and yellow dots, that means that we do have some severe weather still coming down at those areas. But again, we are going to see things calm down as the temperatures begin to cool down into the evening hours. But again, we are still going to see the watches and the warnings in effect until 10 p.m., especially for the Antelope Valley, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Kern County mountains. This flash flood watch is going to be with us until 10 p.m. tonight. There was also a warning earlier, but again, because these isolated showers happen very sporadically, they come, they're issued, and then they're canceled as soon as the cells pass by. And that's why you see all the flashing, because they're coming and they're going. But this particular watch is going to be with us until 10. And again, that's because we are going to see those temperatures finally cool down into the late evening hours. And then tomorrow, we still have the possibility of an isolated T-storm or two, especially for the mountains and the deserts. But I'll have all those details coming up in just a moment. Back to you guys for now.
We have a video talking again today. People still talking about the
We still are. And you want to know what the funny thing about that is it actually showed up on the satellite radar picture. I couldn't believe it. So what happened was we ended up getting this little area of low pressure. And if you look, it was like right about there. So we have a big ridge of high pressure in place, and that's why we have all that moisture. But right here is this little low that developed, and that's what you could totally see it. I was amazed at how well defined this thing is. It's just this little, there it is right there. You see that right there? There's that haboob. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Anyway, it was really cool, and for me, it was very exciting. Cher, I'm sorry you got dusted on. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the Doppler just so that we can get a nice look at the rain, and it is still very active out there. In fact, Big Bear Lake got over a ½ inch of rain. Some areas got up to 3/4, and these are really brief, but they're very heavy downpours, and that's why we have those flash flood watches in effect. T-storms are going to be possible through this evening, late this evening, and again, we could see some lightning, of course, strong winds up to maybe 40 miles per hour, and then possibly even like a little hail like we did yesterday. So a lot going on with the system, and again, you can see there's still lots of green on the Doppler, and where you're seeing these bright oranges and yellows, that means we're actually getting some pretty heavy downpours and possibly even some lightning out of that. Currently, though, take a look at these temperatures. Still very warm and humid out. 90 degrees in Van Nuys, downtown Los Angeles, 79 degrees. 88 as we take a look at Riverside, and in Palm Springs, 94 degrees. A little bit cool, but you can just imagine how sticky it's going to be there. Overnight lows are going to be relatively mild. We're looking at upper 60s and low 70s, like 72 in Burbank, 70 in El Monte. And as we go ahead and take a peek at the Inland Empire, upper 60s and low 70s dominate the temperatures there as well. A look at your 7-day forecast coming up in just a little bit, and another peek of that Doppler, and of course, any severe weather that we may be experiencing. I'll have all that for you coming up. Guys, back to you. And more muggy weather tomorrow, and another chance of T-storms tonight and tomorrow. But what about the weekend? I'll have the details coming up.
For weather, especially up in the high desert, Vera.
It has indeed. It's that monsoonal moisture that's keeping us a little unstable, especially in the Antelope Valley, the Riverside, San Bernardino County areas, the mountains, the deserts. As we take a look at the Doppler, you can see that there is still plenty of activity there. In fact, there is a severe weather advisory for the eastern Antelope Valley, and that's going to be until 7 p.m. tonight, mostly between Lake Los Angeles and Pear Blossom. And in fact, if you live in that area, just keep in mind that Pear Blossom Boulevard and Highway 138 are still running the risk of possibly some flash flooding, because we do have that possibility of those heavy downpours, brief but heavy downpours. We could also see some hail from these thunderstorms. So just a little heads up. So there's still plenty of green, orange, and yellow. And of course, where you see the orange and the yellow, that indicates that we have some pretty heavy downpours in those areas. As we take a look at the flash flood watch, this is going to be with us until 10 p.m. tonight for the Antelope Valley, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Kern County areas. And again, very sporadic and brief downpours, and that's why that watch is going to be with us until 10. As we take a look at the high over downtown Los Angeles, we didn't break any records here. 85 was the high. The average this time of year is 83. So we were a couple degrees above the average, but in Camarillo, we actually broke a record there. The high there today, 87 degrees. The old record of 85 was beat by 2 degrees. So pretty warm in Camarillo. Camarillo. Downtown Los Angeles right now, 76 degrees, 78 if you're in Santa Ana, 89 in Ontario, and 94 for Palm Springs. If we take a look at the satellite radar, that ridge of high pressure has not moved. It is still parked over the four corners. The circulation around that high is tapping into that monsoonal moisture out of Baja. It's bringing it into the area, and that moisture combined with the really warm daytime temperatures creating a lot of instability, all that lift, and that's why we have those thunderstorms during the daytime hours. They will decrease though as we start moving into the evening hours. 96 is going to be the high over Simi Valley tomorrow, likewise in Newhall. A little bit warmer in the Antelope Valley. We're talking upper 90s, low 100s like in Palmdale, 80 in Wrightwood, 93 in Hesperia, 91 in Ontario, 90 in Chino, and even in Big Bear, temperatures are going to be above average there at 78 degrees and 107 for Palm Springs. Take a look at the upper 80s, 89 Saturday and Sunday, and we'll keep it there until at least next Wednesday. That's a look at your 7-day forecast.
This could be, well, we're going to go to Vera first and take a look at the conditions outside right now. Vera.
Yes, and let's go ahead and take a look at that, Micah. Right now we are taking a look from our camera at Mount Wilson. As you can see, it's a little dry outside, which is nice compared to what we had earlier, and that's because the temperatures have cooled down, and as the temperatures cool down, it also helps to restabilize that atmosphere, and so we see less of that thunderstorm activity. Taking a quick look at the Doppler, you can see not a heck of a whole lot of green at this point. Things are really drying out very nicely compared to earlier when we had the big thunderstorm activity and we had those heavy downpours, brief but heavy downpours. As we go ahead and take a look at the flood watches and the warnings, things have really calmed down enough to expire. Everything is expired at 10 o'clock, but once again tomorrow we are going to see that possibility reestablish itself, especially during the daytime temperatures as they heat up. However, the southwesterly flow tends to be a little bit drier tomorrow, so that means we will see less moisture, and that could be good news. We'll have the rest of the details coming up in just a moment. Back to you guys for now.
Thank you, Vera.
It has indeed, Mike, and as we go ahead and take a look outside, it's a little bit hazy out there. We still have a little bit of moisture in the atmosphere, but before we get to the actual weather, let's go ahead and take a look. The latest update shows that the moisture has really started to dry out. We're going to see a little bit of southwesterly flow tomorrow, and that's going to dry things out. There isn't quite as much moisture, so as we go ahead and put it into play, this is tomorrow afternoon around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We do have some pretty heavy clouds out there, and that is going to give us the possibility of at least another shower or two and possibly even some T-storms. But again, compared to today, that's going to be very much diminished over the next 24 hours. In the meantime, today over downtown Los Angeles, how does 85 degrees sound? The average this time of year is right around 83, so we were still above average, and some areas reached record highs like Camarillo today. They reached a high of 87. The old record is 85, so that's what it was in Camarillo. Nice and warm. Currently right now in downtown Los Angeles, we're looking at 71 degrees, 72 in Santa Ana, 79 for Ontario, and still warm and a little muggy in Palm Springs at 89 degrees. Overnight low is going to be relatively mild. If you're in the Inland Empire, we're looking at upper 60s and low 70s, like 69 in Riverside, 71 in San Bernardino, Big Bear 55, and in Irvine, we're looking at 67 degrees for your overnight lows. As we take a look at the satellite radar picture, here's that ridge of high pressure has not moved. It is still parked over the four corners. The rotation around that high is pulling in some of that moisture. So tomorrow it's still going to be as humid, but again, we're also going to see a little bit of southwesterly flow. That's going to be flow out of the Pacific towards the mountains, and that's going to be a little bit drier than what we had today. Highs for tomorrow are going to feel like this, cooler than we had today. 77 in Santa Barbara, 78 in Oxnard. Let's take a look at Simi Valley. We're looking at 96 degrees. In the Antelope Valley, we're still looking at upper 90s and low 100s, like 100 in Palmdale. 7-day forecast. Beaches are going to be really nice, especially